know I've been around and doing it, but now it's my time to shine and start proving it. I'm losing it, I'm moving it. The city is where I'm made, Bostonian flow, I kick it a back day. Yeah, I got game, God in a fan way. We the city of the champs, every sport we play. Spit wetter than the harbor, yeah, I'm flowing like the Charles. I be speeding on this beat, call it Turnpike Miles. Yeah, it's Google signing on, John to the Hancock, and I'm always key, I'm ready to unlock. I be doing big things.
Welcome back, everyone, to the newest edition of Once a Week. I'm Billy Janeludis. You know him. He is Pierre Panopoulos, the traveling teacher, and you've seen him before. Vasilis Axios. Let's just call this Once a Week with the Greek guys, because we got the Greek bros with you right now. Figure, why not, right? Say it how it is. But guys, I thank you so much for being here. We have a topic today that I think connects to each and every single one of us. We've touched on it before in Once a Week episodes in the past, and that is transitions. But prior to us recording today, Peter asked me, Bill, what's going on with your life? Is there any topics you want to bring to the people? And this idea of transitions popped up to me, and I can see it in my personal life, but I see it in business as well. But I know it connects to every single one of you in your own life, in maybe your relationships, your family, could be your business like me. But you start to see one area of your life. So with me, I could say the coaching clients right now are kind of lower than they normally are. And when most people see their business start to decline, they sit there like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? I got to focus on money. I got to focus on all this stuff. And I haven't had that perspective. I start to look at all right, one area starts to decline means it opens up space for something new to come in. So in this idea of transitions, we want to discuss to you today, having the opportunity of newness come into your life, but having the opportunity to realize, man, something great's about to happen. So I thank you guys both for being here. Sweet. Let's just dive into it. Yeah, I figured you can talk about this on a personal level.
You're going to take the role today.
Well, no,
I'm going to feed off it. I want to feed off it. Last time, I was like, dude, I was like, yeah.
But no, you did great.
I want to feed off you today because this topic is, it's good to have a lot to say, but I think...
We do. I feel like business comes into play here, especially with what you do.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think last time was really great because we were both able to ask really good questions towards you about the things that you're working on and just life in general. And so, no, it was really great having you on, and it's nice for you to be back.
It's awesome to be back.
I mean, listen, we had a lot of conversations in the beginning before we started recording here, and transitions in life are natural and normal, and they're exciting.
Yep.
And when we allow them to be what they truly are, which is that exciting thing of the unknown, we're entering into a new chapter. We're entering into an unknown of anything, whether it's business, relationships, anything in life at all. It's something to embrace. It's something to say, you know what? I don't know what's to come, but I'm really loving this. And in order to really step into what is to come, I have to let go of what was.
Yeah.
Right? And that transition piece is it's something that, I look at as, an example of snowboarding. Anytime I've ever tried to teach anyone about snowboarding, or even when I was learning myself, you're always on an edge in snow. You're either on your back edge or your toe edge. And the hardest part when snowboarding in general is when you're transitioning from back to toe or toe to back. It's that moment where you are flat with the snow. Anything can happen. You can catch an edge and fall. Whereas when you're on an edge, you really can't have that, right? And that's a transition similar to whatever is happening in life, is this piece where you really have to just trust before you move on to the next side. And that's something that a lot of people are overly anxious about, to the point where they don't actually execute, right? And so that's, I think that's a really key piece that we can talk about today is that fear and anxiety. And what you mentioned before the podcast as well is that eagerness.
Yes.
Right?
Yep, exactly.
We can look at it as eagerness rather than fear and anxiety, which is something that actually, kind of spoke to me a lot.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
So, yeah, I mean, Vasily, last time we talked about the marathon, we talked about your traveling, we talked about your business. Is there one specific transition that you have in mind when we talk about these things that maybe was nerve-wracking, maybe was scary? Anything at all that you can think of?
Yeah, I'd say the thing that comes to mind is probably transitioning from when I was working with someone as like a partner, but I don't want to say an inferior partner, but I was on the smaller level. I was doing kind of the dirty work for this person.
Yep.
To then transitioning to doing my own thing. Because the responsibilities. I mean, when you're an entrepreneur and then you're an entrepreneur, they're a little bit different. I was an entrepreneur for this guy. I was working in his business, and I was growing myself as I did it, but I was really growing his bottom line at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Now it's me growing my own business and growing, below me too.
Can you explain that more? The entrepreneur and entrepreneur.
So an entrepreneur, from my understanding, based off definition of I know, is someone who works inside their business or works for someone else's business and is doing something within their business.
Okay.
Entrepreneur is someone who's creating their own thing and building themselves.
Wow.
Initially, initially,
me neither. I love that.
Yeah, initially, I thought my role in life was to be an entrepreneur for someone else's business.
Okay.
But as I got older, it's just through, I think, confidence and then also leadership, you become your own entrepreneur.
For sure.
Yeah.
Entrepreneur is for someone who's trying to learn the ropes.
Yes.
And
That's awesome.
yeah,
That's awesome.
it's a real thing. Like some people, like let's say we talked about someone who's introverted.
Yep.
Let's take Apple for example.
Yeah.
Right. Do you guys know who the owners of Apple are? Wozniak? Is that Wozniak? I have no idea, to be honest.
Yeah.
But who was the guy who passed away?
Jobs.
Jobs.
Yeah.
Right?
Jobs was the face of the company,
Yeah.
right? But I think he had a partner who was like on a similar level
Right.
as he was.
Yeah.
That guy in that circumstance would have been considered the entrepreneur,
Okay.
and he's considered the entrepreneur. He's really the face of the company. He's building the company from the outside perspective.
Yeah.
So once I transitioned, that was probably my biggest, transition of and creation of, I guess you could say, anxiety.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this now. If you never made that transition, how would you feel?
Oh, dude.
Where would you be now if you didn't?
I made that transition based off of like must and need,
all of it. Okay.
must and need over really want.
Yeah.
And I think that's how most people really make that transition. If things were the way in which I wanted them to be, I probably would never have actually made that transition.
For sure. So there's come back to that.
There's all like it's all of like I think it all goes together.
Oh, 100%. No, and completely with that. The eagerness factor you and I talked about prior, where there's something new coming in, I find that a lot of people have that eagerness factor because they know that they want a change to happen in their life. They know they need to make a change, but then they're too afraid to make the change.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked you, like, how would you feel if you didn't? Because a lot of people I feel are stuck because they don't have that confidence to step out and that leadership, as you touched on, to really be their own entrepreneur, be their own person. And I have so many great friends that they couldn't take living or working under someone else. They just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So they stepped out and did their own thing.
Dude, and I actually, like, now that I made that switch, I wish I had done it sooner.
That's
what's crazy about it is, like,
it's awesome.
Regretfully, like, I don't really regret per se, but if I think about it, I get a little bit angry about the whole situation.
I get that.
Because I could have left years ago and the outcome would have been probably better, but if I hadn't stayed, then maybe I'd never been eager enough to actually leave.
Right.
And maybe that better piece that you're talking about is kind of more of a short-term thought as opposed to what we talked about before is like the growing slowly and surely. You know what I mean? And here's the thing, right? Like I know people who have been in that, I'll say, entrepreneur in the 9-to-5 for a lot of years, like longer than any of us have been alive.
Yeah.
And they finally get to the point where they make the switch, and it worked for them because they learned every minute little detail about it from being in there, right? And so again, like Billy said before, it's like, would you have gone to this level that you are right now if it wasn't for that?
I think you're an entrepreneur until the point that you're really, really good. Someone who's really, really good, there's really not a price tag someone would be willing to take to stay within a company.
I get that.
Yeah.
Like unless they have unless you're buying time, like, oh, I don't want the responsibility of having my own business.
True.
But I want to make a good salary or good income.
Yeah.
Like if you look at anyone who created bigger companies, like let's say, for example, I don't know if I can come up with an example off the spot, but if you look at, was it T-Mobile or BlackBerry? I think BlackBerry, for example. Have you guys seen the movie that came out about BlackBerry?
I know what you're talking about, though. Yeah.
Dude, phenomenal. Such a good movie. You had people leave that company to go, I think, help Apple because they got so good but underappreciated. So they went to help Apple. I think they were at a larger, in a big position now.
Yeah.
So over time, I think if you do get skilled enough, like naturally you're going to leave.
You're growing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you're
can't
growing.
stay. You just can't stay because there's no amount of money that's even equivalent
Yeah.
to the ability to do your own thing.
I like that because in the topic of transitions, I feel that all of us, we're growing in certain areas.
Yeah.
We're growing in certain stages of life. And when you have grown to the point where you can't fit into the mold you once were, you kind of break out of it. And there's a painful stance in that. When you grow into someone else, there's a think about the caterpillar with the cocoon and the butterfly concept. In the cocoon, you grow so big that you break out of that mold. With us in business, with us in relationships, like if you're in a relationship with someone and you're really focused on growing yourself, growing who you are in that relationship, but growing who you are as an individual, and that other person isn't, eventually you're going to grow out of that mold, which creates a transition process, which means now there is an emptiness feeling, which means, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? That's why I said to you earlier in the topic of relationship, there's an eagerness there. It's not a nerves of like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? It's an eagerness to something new coming in. So when you grow out of the mold, like an entrepreneur and intrapreneur concept, you're essentially realizing, man, I'm meant for more. I value myself more than this. And now you're allowing life, the universe, God, to bring something in and be like, here it is. This is what you were going towards. That's that eagerness to like, I know I got more in me than this.
Yeah,
it's a must.
You know there's something more. It is a must. It was a must for me. I know it was a must for you. And it was a must for you. And that's the mindset that you have to have when it comes to something like this is like, I'm not going back.
Yeah.
I'm not going back. It's going to hurt. I'm going to learn a lot through failure, but I'm going to go do it. And whatever comes, comes. And, that is something that is very important. Now, when you went from the intrapreneur to the entrepreneur, was there anybody in your life that gave you a little bit of a straw in the camel's back in terms of like, go do it. Make that change, whatever it is.
Dude, you know what's funny about it is, and we're talking about relationship level, I think the trigger for it was actually from a personal level, personal relationship I had previously.
Interesting.
So I was with this person the entire time I was an entrepreneur. It was stable. I was not trying to, the term like leveling up. Leveling up.
Yeah.
You can only get what you are.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So if you want to get a super high end something, right? Whether I don't want to say, opposite gender, whatever.
I guess so.
If you want to get a super attractive, a supermodel, if you want to get a supermodel, you have to be someone who is worthy enough to get a supermodel, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to be making the money. You got to have the cars. You might have to have a mansion. You have to be well diverse, right? So I think when I had ended that personal relationship, I totally outgrew it,
Right.
and I was ready for the next step, the next tier of like ability-wise of the person I was going to be with.
Yes.
So what did that mean? I needed to create my own thing.
Need to grow.
As I create my own thing, now, confidence. Listen, if you do your own thing, you're going to be more confident all the time. If you figure out how to do the shit, man, you are so confident.
Right.
What does confidence breeds? Breeds success. And what does success breeds? It breeds pulling it higher in people.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So I would say actually it came from a personal level that really started that transition.
Nice.
The need and the must.
Yeah.
I'm
the same exact way, especially starting my stuff. I always had a dream, a goal, a vision to do what I'm doing now, and it's continuing to grow into more levels of that. But I can remember having these goals and visions while in a relationship, and when that ended for me, I only had one route to go, which was all this dream, goal, vision stuff for me. So I look in a grander concept where that relationship had to end to make sure I can achieve what I want to achieve and what I believe I was meant to achieve. But sometimes we need that motivator. Pain is an incredible motivator.
Incredible.
Right? It really is.
Well, think about before money and all of these things, pain meant you weren't eating that night.
Yeah, true.
Pain
Very
meant
true.
I'm hungry. I didn't hunt anything.
Yep.
I have to be a better hunter next time, or we're not going to live to see tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. And so these things that have been in humans since the beginning of humans, and monkeys and whatever,
right,
is something that we need to always look back to and say, this fear, this anger, these things, embrace them.
Yeah.
Right? Take them for what they are.
Right.
Take them as your biggest teacher.
Yeah.
Take them and say, in the short term, I'm going to feel this way. I feel upset or angry or whatever emotions are going on. But take that and use it as fuel.
Right.
To the best of your ability.
Yeah.
And as you take that as fuel, and what you mentioned about the confidence thing coming from the internal, from the personal, I mean, it's very true.
It's very
right?
true.
When I left for my motorcycle trip, it was for myself, and what I learned about myself on that road built the confidence for me to run and do the things that I'm doing right now. And it only gets better and better.
Yeah.
But again, it's that threshold that a lot of people stay below before they, instead of just breaking through it and say, this is going to be very uncomfortable and unknown within myself and with the things around me, but I'm going to push through it. And I wish, as everybody does, I wish there were true words to describe the feelings that come about and the growth of that confidence.
Yeah.
Because it is something that is just, if you told me 10 years ago that I'd be doing podcasts and stuff like that, I'd be like, you're out of your mind. Like, what are you talking about? Because I didn't have the self-confidence or anything like that in the past. And I look back and I'm like, it's good that I didn't, just because I forced myself to kind of push through that and bloom.
Yeah.
But it's so important. And it's, again, I think it's one of the most important things that we talk about frequently is this idea of pushing through, embracing the unknown, pursuing to a degree, and allowing the universe to pursue with you.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
right? No, that's awesome. And I agree with you with the confidence aspect. And you can only grow that confidence by stepping into new areas. You know, if we stay in the same molds, if we stay on that imagery, if we stay in the same molds that we are, where's the growth?
Yeah.
You know, how can you grow your confidence if you stay in areas you've known your entire life? You know, but for you stepping out your motorcycle trip, or you stepping out being an entrepreneur, it's essentially saying like, all right, well, uncharted waters.
Yeah.
Did I survive? Yeah. So my confidence grows.
Yes.
You know, even like with a relationship idea, going on a date.
Dude, I was going to say, like, I remember I just started going on dates, like, and this girl was much older. And I remember I showed up and I was like, oh shit, like super attractive. I'm like, no fucking way, dude. Like, I got this.
Yeah.
Like, you know. So I did feel inferior at the point. I was like, dude, I'm not good enough looking for this date. That's how I know.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there and my mouth is getting so dry because I was so nervous, dude. I was so nervous. I got a beer and I got a water and I kept having to get refills. And to this day, she made the comments. Like, I remember, you know, first that day we went on, like, we were so nervous.
Yes.
And since then, dude, it ballooned where it's like, I don't want to say like now I don't feel, you know, any types of nervousness.
Of course.
But it's like so not extreme as extreme. It was extreme, man, before. Dry. I remember I said, oh, it's because I just worked out or I took creatine. When you take creatine, when you take creatine, you dry out.
Yes,
so like I was thinking maybe it's just the creatine, which no, dude, I was scared. You know? So through time, it's you build that muscle, and it sucks because some people just build the muscle, but then they never know like, dude, there's actually more. It just keeps on getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, one thing you guys are talking about prior to us filming is essentially on today's topic of when newness comes in, you guys are talking about your businesses and how you're scaling your businesses and really growing these areas. So new clients, new clientele, new houses, everything like this. There's new coming into your life, but you guys were going on the idea of how do you balance the stress?
Yeah.
So I sit there and I connect that to our point right here where you reach a point where you balance the stress and the stress doesn't affect you anymore. And you saw me in that exact moment because Peter actually came to my recent speaking gig and was at a school and whatnot. And I got to this school and their entire setup was something I've never done before. Yeah. And I was like, all right, well, roll with the punches. Yeah. And I did the best I could, but I wasn't going to allow that stress to get me because you live and breathe who you are. Yeah, yeah. And so of me as a speaker, like, I love that. I love that environment. I'm like, all right. To me, it was like, you know, you're in a football game or something like that. Like, all right, they're up. We need 7 points, whatever. It's like this whole thing is stacked against you. Rise to the occasion. Yeah. You know? So I think in business, it's the same thing. In relationship, it's the same thing. To rise up when newness comes, how do I scale up with stress? Eventually, you become so confident in who you are and your growth, stress isn't even a factor.
No,
for sure. It's preparedness and organization, right? That will allow, at least for me, the ability to remain calm because it's this idea of, all right, I have set up, let's say business-wise, for example, and then I'd like to go a little bit more internal, but like business-wise, you set up a foundation of systems and people that will allow you to let things move freely without you being overly stressed. Yeah. Then, as I mentioned before the podcast, it may get to the point where, you know, you have a new client that has a lot of things coming in and it'll bring you to that kind of limit of where
Yeah.
you are within that system. And that's okay because the system's already built, so all you need to do is just add more people to that system.
Correct.
Right? And that's that piece. And I would say on an internal perspective, the ability to go out and understand who you are as a person and go be more confident and go do more things will allow you to give that calm to yourself in many situations that will say, I am organized and prepared as who I am as a person. I am accepting of who I am as a person. I have reached and pushed my boundaries all of these years.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, I have the ability to take this in stride and not let it make me collapse.
Yeah.
You know, so, yeah.
Foundation, like a slow build of foundation, I think is just so much better. Personally,
Yeah.
like I told you guys about
Yep.
expenses before, like business
Yes.
expense.
Yeah.
Like for me personally, like I kid you not, like we talk about how much is it, a month, like the number you guys couldn't even guess, like
Yeah.
how low.
Yeah.
But that was from learning. I
Right.
learned
Yes.
the hard way
I get
because
that, yep.
before I was with those types of numbers. I was telling you guys, and I
Yes.
was like, never again will I do that.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how much amount of money I might make.
Yeah.
I want to scale at a pace in which I want to,
Yeah.
and then I can actually fulfill like good service with clients.
Yeah.
That's for me. That's more important.
Oh, that's
now.
awesome.
Yeah, it's not sustainable.
That's why I love having you on, man, because truthfully, your business expertise, your business perspectives line up perfectly with other factors of life.
Mhm.
And that's why I think the dynamic of the Greek boys,
Yeah.
it really works
Yeah.
out, dude.
Yeah.
It really
It
does.
does.
Right? Yeah.
It does.
You know what I was thinking was we were talking about this. I don't know what it was. Maybe the pain thing you were saying earlier about like I had said this thing the other day. Pain is the best endurance creator. Creates the best it creates endurance the fastest when you're through pain. When you're going through pain. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you two examples here. I was running Sunday. We ran a 16 miler.
Okay.
Wow.
At the end of it, which isn't too much. Like I'm used to now that between
Speak for
16.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Say,
Fine.
yeah. Do that yesterday, man.
At
Do
the
that
end-
before we film, man.
At the end of the run, I talked to this older guy. His name's Ted, and I complained. He had said to me like, "Oh, I hate having someone younger than me run behind me." So like he had a random person running behind him. It wasn't part of our group. What happens is when someone's running behind you, you naturally start to speed up. So that kills your heart rate and your
Interesting.
pace. So then you start to get gassed. And I'm like, he's like, I don't like running with young people because they're always pushing it too much and it kills my heart rate and like I slow down over time. And I'm like, to be honest, dude, I said to him like, older people have a way better pace and they're always blow by me on a long distance. Old people. Short distance, we're faster. If we're going to sprint a mile, I'm going to beat you. But in a 20 to 30 mile race, you're going to beat me. And he goes, you're true. And the reason being is when you're old, you've endured so much pain, whether it be physical or emotional.
Yes.
And he brought it to the point of divorce. Divorce itself had made him so numb that like the physical pain doesn't matter to him. Us, when we're new to running or lifting weights, man, you have the building pain.
I get that.
But dude, when you're old, if you look at like an older gentleman, like a 50 to 60-year-old person working out, dude, they're like going crazy with these workouts. And they're like, they've always got that one more in them. And they can push it. But when you're younger, it's a little bit more difficult. Point one, so pain creates endurance.
Yes.
Point two, I was thinking about it. When we're talking about expansion and like building, companies, whatever, businesses, gradually. I remember, I was living in San Francisco. This is 2017, I think. I was living in these really expensive apartments. Like, back then I think it was $5,000 a month, which now would be considered cheap where I was living.
Yeah.
And bro, it got to the point where like I was living on a air mattress. I had no furniture, and the only thing I could actually eat was oatmeal. I was eating oatmeal. I didn't buy any milk, so I just put water and oatmeal.
Yeah.
And so it was really dry, man. It was really dry. You know what? I didn't even want to buy a spoon. I used a fucking knife, man. I used a knife to eat this fucking oatmeal because I didn't have any cash to be doing it because I was just spending way too much on my living situation.
Yeah.
And I think that modern day now, like to focus on like expenses and like keeping them low and lead with revenue is like number one. Number one for me at least.
That's
And
awesome.
life in general, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's all about cutting the fat and just living with what you need. And again, the last podcast that we had, we talked about the people renting, getting the Ferraris and all this stuff, and you find out it's pretty much a rental, and it's like you're wasting your money for an image that isn't even true. And again, as we mentioned back then, you have to question whether or not it's why you're doing what you're doing, right? These people who are renting all these crazy cars and doing all this stuff, it's fine. Like but if are you doing it for the clout or are you doing it for yourself? And when you put the time in and the stress and the not having anything to eat or anything like that, you really start to evolve through that because you don't have a choice.
Right.
And that's these things that we really have to allow ourselves to transition into is that, right? We have to just continually change and make, I like what you said about keeping the cost as low as possible.
Dude, I'm
To
telling
a
you,
degree.
longevity.
Yes.
That's what creates longevity. I can tell you, my other brother, he brags about how little money he spends every month. Actually, both my brothers are like that. They're like way worse than me now. I'm like ridiculous, dude. Like unbelievable. I couldn't even. If I told you, guys would be like shocked. But it's almost just like, dude, if you can get your income to a certain point in your business.
Yeah.
You're not spending so much money. Just because you're not spending money doesn't mean you're not giving good service.
Right, for sure.
It's not true, man.
I totally agree.
Like, I want to expand my business. I got to spend more money. Like, no, that's not how it always works.
Definitely.
In some circumstances, maybe it can do it with, maybe hiring an admin or an assistant or something. But to an extent, it's not one-to-one.
Yeah.
No.
It's not one-to-one.
And with that, in mind, you do at some point things do scale to a point where you do need that, but again, don't go so quickly where you may not actually need it when you actually pull the trigger on it. Is I think
you should
what
go
I'm
through the
getting
cycles.
from it. Yes.
Yeah, you should got to go through the cycles. Like you might have 1 year where you make a bunch of money, and the next year you have something like COVID.
True.
Yes.
Like is your business actually like downturn proof or not? Because it's not. If it's not, then you got to solidify it. Like, what am I going to do that's going to make sure that no matter what, I'm making business? So we talked about marketing.
Right.
We talked about ads. Ads are great at certain points in time, right?
Yeah.
Other times they're not great.
Right.
For me, cold calling, talking to people, no matter what, if it's a downturn, I'm still going to get business.
Yes.
So I can use that. At least that's my base level income. Is the income I make off of myself talking to other people, and with that income, I'll expand and spend more money.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, that's awesome, and I completely agree with all of it. And connecting it to this point right here of transitions, and essentially what we started on is when you lose something and newness opens up, and then when newness opens up, what Vasily and Peter are diving into for you guys right now is showing you that there's always tools and resources when newness comes around to help you. So it's no longer fear of emptiness of like, oh my goodness, I just lost this in my life. It's, wait a second, how can I pivot and turn this into something great? Whether it's a business aspect where you're going through a transition and you're realizing like, all right, well, last year I did phenomenal, then COVID hits, as your example just was, and now you're straight under. I think the biggest thing with COVID was it was a time for all of us to pivot and learn how to learn differently.
Yes.
To grow differently. Right? So it grew so many people. It doesn't have to be business. It could be a personal way. It could be a spiritual way, whatever it is for you. But there are moments, there are ebbs and flows of your life that allow you to grow in certain stages in certain areas. And in those transition moments, you should welcome them. You should welcome, I don't want to say you should welcome loss into your life, but welcome newness. Because newness is always coming around. And if you're someone sitting there and you have the business goals, or you have the relationship goals, or you have just a goal in general for yourself, a dream or a vision, the second you start focusing on that and try to create that, manifest that, bring that into this reality for that matter, the second you start doing that, opportunities pop up in your life. But if you're too fearful of stepping into those opportunities or those sales or relationships or whatever it is, you're never going to allow yourself the opportunity to grow. So at that point, take the newness and throw it away. I'm just going to stay who I am. But if you stay who you are, I think you miss out on such a great part of life, because life is a whole factor of learning. That's why we can have the three of us hop on this podcast together and discuss different points of life, relationship, business, teaching, the whole 9 yards, because it's a different perspective. I can learn from him. I can learn from him. They can learn from me, and vice versa, because someone next to you has a greater perspective in some area that you know nothing about. So why not be open ears and grow in that standpoint, and then you gain something from it. As to his point right now, he didn't have to ship out money, as much money as other people, because he's more apt to just go up and say hello to someone. That could be a business venture. Me and Peter were talking about sales and advertisements at hockey rinks, gyms, stuff like this, and that's a penny. It's a penny. It is what it is. And yes, success can come from it, but at the same time, success can come from saying hello to someone and really providing the service that you provide. So whether we're talking about all these areas, guys, find out how it centers directly to you, because all these different perspectives are here to help you grow into something more, grow into something more for yourself, something better for your business, better for your relationship, based off of what you allow in. If you allow newness into your life, get ready. I think things are going to become great because you're seeking it, you're after it. But it's a little rant.
Dude, I got something really, I love that, Billy.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking as you're saying it, like, I'm thinking like if I'm a viewer of like listening to this,
Yeah.
right? Listening to, how your business works, how my business works, how your business works, and you have no idea of like how you actually build that clientele.
Yeah.
Dude, I had a conversation with someone this morning. This is an incredible business idea, okay? And it's so simple, okay? And I threw it to 3 people. I got off the phone. It was 7:30 this morning. I got off the phone with a client of mine. He's buying a piece of land to put bees on it, whatever. Cool, nice. But he told me 2 things. His business is, he works for a company, that's his main job. He does the bees. Then he also he picks up dead bodies, which is crazy.
Okay.
He picks up dead bodies. He makes up $400 per body. Kind of
Wow.
a sick thing, yeah.
No, for sure.
But he's totally a numb person. And then lastly, scrap metal. Scrap metal. So for someone who's listened to this, I think a big thing I try to go about, and when I talk about not spending so much money, is keeping things simple.
Yeah.
Like really simple.
It's true.
This guy, for example, he has a truck. He paid $3,000 for the truck. Every week he does a drive-by on Tuesday night. So trash day is Wednesday in certain towns. He picks up the scrap metal, $1.25 per pound of metal.
Wow. Okay.
Picks up about 1,000 pounds a week of metal.
Wow.
$1,000, man, a week.
Right.
There's no skill to it. You just learn, okay, the routes for Walpole are Wednesday mornings at 8. So I'm going to go out at 9 p.m. on Tuesday.
Yes.
Pick up some scrap, 1,000 pounds, bring it to the scrap yard, and they give you $1.25 cash, man.
Wow.
Cash. Keep it simple, dude.
Yeah,
I think it's got to be. It can't be simple.
Wow. Exactly.
Isn't it incredible, dude?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Seriously.
I'm buying a truck. I literally called someone. I called someone today. I was like, "How much can I buy a truck for?"
Awesome.
Yeah.
A little shit box.
Yeah.
And I got 2 other people who work for demolition companies. They have scrap too. And I'm like,
There
dude,
you go.
It's a go
you take 75%. I'll take 25%.
Yes.
I'll provide the truck.
Yes.
No problem.
It's a
There
go
you go.
getter.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And that is something that's, I want to touch on what both of you have talked about, because keeping it simple is very important.
Yeah.
But also, what I got from what you mentioned about this guy is that he is doing a bunch of different things at once. He's doing a bunch of little things together that make the dream work.
Yeah.
And that is something that I think a lot of people don't understand is possible, or whatever the reason may be that they don't do it. But it's something that when you piece part-time things together, they become your full-time reality. And it's really a beautiful thing, and it really keeps things fresh and new and exciting. And it continues on that path of increasing the positive emotions that you have about the life around you, because everything is just completely new and different and changing all of the time. So I think that's a really cool thing that you mentioned. And for you, talk about the grandest transition phase of our generation is 2020.
Oh yeah.
Good, bad, or irrelevant. Ask yourself, did you take that time to actually do something for yourself, or did you not? And let's say if you did, then I'm sure we'd love to have you on the podcast, because I'm sure you're doing something great right now.
Yeah.
Whether it's just in your own personal life or with a business or whatever the case may be. And if you are not the person that did something, that's fine too. But understand the feelings looking back and saying, man, I wish I did take that time, because I hear that from a lot of people. I wish I did take that time back then. I was just doing puzzles and hanging out at the house all day.
Yeah.
I wish I did take that time to learn a new skill, to research something new, to try something different, right? And what I'm saying is both are fine, and go backwards and feel, looking back, saying, should I have done something like that? And if you say to yourself yes, then you should start tomorrow. Because it's that extra push, whether it's an internal or an external push that sends you in that direction. it has to get to the point where you actually take action on it.
Yeah.
And this is, kind of what we're all talking about today.
Yeah.
Is this idea of these transitions and taking action towards the new and letting go of the old.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's sweet,
Right?
huh?
And I think that's a great way to kind of transition to a closing of this topic or closing of this video. But to build on that, Peter, this COVID concept, we all look at 2020 as the significant stage, which it was.
Yes.
No one knew what the heck was going on.
No.
But to use that time wisely, maybe you did, maybe you didn't, as he was just touching on. You always have time. It doesn't have to be a catastrophic event that the entire world is dealing with for you to say, you know what, I'm going to give myself
It
an
was
hour
incredible
today.
in some sense. The transition, dude, that was
Yes.
like a perfect transition.
Yeah.
point.
It's true.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Continue, sorry.
No, you're 100%
Yeah.
right, though. It was a transition point that you could have moved with or not moved with. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of people that didn't do anything at that time, as you said, that you've talked to a lot of people, they could be like, man, I wish I did.
Yeah.
Time is time. You always have a moment to yourself, and a lot of people think they don't.
Mhm.
You always have time. Like me, I'm trying, thanks to you guys, I'm trying to learn Greek.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
doing
nice.
Rosetta Stone like maybe 20 minutes a day or something like that,
Nice.
trying to learn
Yeah.
because it's fun. It's a new skill. It's something I've always wanted to do. Yes, I'm handling business. Yes, I'm handling family. Yes, I'm handling all these areas that I have in my life, for sure, as we all do. But you have to set aside time for you and what you want. Whether that is a dream that we pursue, entrepreneurship and everything like that. Maybe that's you and something else. Maybe that's you wanting a relationship in your life and you finally taking steps towards that. Maybe that's you wanting to get back in the gym. Maybe that's you wanting to learn how to drive, whatever it might mean. But there's always time. You don't have to wait for 2020 or some other event to happen. Start. I think that's the biggest thing. And that's a transition. Ebbs and flows are going to happen. Things will leave your life when you start to grow into something new, as we touched on earlier with relationship concepts. Sometimes those things that aren't at your level need to fade away. So something that is at your level, as he touched on prior, meets you there. So it's on you to keep moving forward. And if you find someone that moves forward with you, phenomenal,
Yeah.
right? But eventually, what's the quote out there? Is surround yourself with like-minded people, essentially.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
surround yourself with people that are essentially a higher level than you,
Yeah.
so you
Yeah.
grow to their level. If you're growing to a higher level, people from that, let's call it what it is, energy, are going to be attracted to you on a business stance, on a relationship stance, on a personal stance, whatever it is. But it's on you to make the steps forward and take them and see where it gets you. But that's the beauty of life. It's going to lead you to newness. It's going to lead you to something great. And if you move forward with confidence, as we touched on earlier, you're always going to be happy with where you end up. Heck, you might take a motorcycle trip and get lost in Mexico.
Yeah, it's incredible, man.
Yeah.
But it
Seriously.
led him to so many life lessons that has allowed him to move and be successful to where he's now. Life's going to take you there. You just got to trust and keep moving forward.
I'll tell you from, before the podcast, I talked to you about transition that's going on in my life right now that I was excited about. It's like, wow,
Mhm.
things went the way they were supposed to and things ended the way they were supposed to
Yeah.
and all of that. And one of the ones that was very difficult for me was actually my motorcycle trip because when it came to an end, it was such an abrupt end that was completely not planned.
Because of COVID, right?
Because of COVID.
Because of COVID,
Oh,
yeah.
shit,
Okay.
okay.
My 5-year plan was to do all of Latin America, Europe, and Africa, and then come home.
Mm.
And I made it to Nicaragua, didn't even make it to South America, and things started crumbling. And listen, people during that time had a lot more difficult things going on
Yeah.
than somebody vacationing on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, when you make plans and your life goes in a specific direction, and then a transition is forced upon you. In the beginning, when that happened, I made it out on one of the last flights before they closed the country down. Nicaragua was landlocked at that point.
Wow.
Costa Rica and Honduras were already closed their borders. So
Yeah.
I was completely locked in a country that thankfully was allowing me to leave at that point. And this whole time,
What
I
did you do with your bike?
had to abandon it.
Wow, really?
I had to
See, that's a
abandon
good part of the story. I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
know you
I didn't know
abandoned
that.
it.
And since we're talking about the story, I'll go a little bit deeper. All of this was because of one person. If I didn't go with this one person traveling, then I would have been stuck in El Salvador for 3 to 6 months.
Oh, shoot.
Wow.
And we did it by day by day. We were in El Salvador. Everything was fun and great. this woman, Kim, felt as though COVID was going to be really serious and really big and said, I want to go to Nicaragua. So we went, the day we left El Salvador to get to Honduras, they were closing the borders to El Salvador that day. The woman that let us through I said, can we get through? She said, yes, but you can't come back. We're closing the borders now. And so we stayed the night in Honduras, and then on the way to Nicaragua, the same exact thing.
Wow.
The people in Honduras said, you can go, but you cannot come back. We're closing the borders today.
Wow.
So we were in Nicaragua for about a month.
Talk about timing.
Talk about
About a
timing.
month?
Yeah.
About a month, because our plan was to actually stay there. My plan and Kim's plan was to stay in Nicaragua. And the thing that got me out of there was I went to the supermarket. We were in a pretty remote area by the beach and all of that stuff, and it was great. But I went to the supermarket, and all of the food was spoiling.
Oh, wow.
Even the potatoes were going bad, and I'm like,
that's
I'm
bad. Yeah,
Greek.
that's bad
I gotta
news.
eat. I'm not staying here
Potatoes
because
are going bad. There's a problem.
exactly. So I ended up getting out of there just in time. And when I had returned to the States, I had nothing. I had sold everything.
Yeah.
I didn't have an apartment. Obviously, I had people I knew that I could stay with and all of that. But my whole life was on the motorcycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I came back to a past life that I had nothing there other than family and friends, but I had nothing physical for myself.
Yeah.
And I had to fight through that for a couple of years so that I could, regain what it was that I had before.
Right.
But in a better way.
Did you gift a motorcycle, or you just
So
left on the side of the road?
No, so what happened, thankfully, when we got to the first Airbnb in León, Nicaragua, we were leaving there to go to the next place down south towards the border of Costa Rica. Mm-hmm. And the woman that had the Airbnb said, take my number down in case you need anything. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm okay. Like, I appreciate it. She said, no, take my number down in case you need something. Wow. So I took it down, and thankfully, she told me to do that, because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have been able to store the motorcycle. So when I was planning on leaving and everything, I messaged her. I said, can I leave the motorcycle at your place? She said, yes. So I went up, stayed a few days there, got the stuff kind of done, and then flew out.
Yeah.
So the bike was there up until very recently, which is 3.5 or 4 years or something like that,
A long time.
where her son had the home that was the Airbnb that she was renting out.
Okay.
And he came back from Florida and called me on the phone and called me every Spanish bad word under the sun.
Yeah.
Like, why is this motorcycle still here after 4 years? I thought you were going to get rid of it. And I'm like, you know what? You're totally right. Now, there was somebody who rented the Airbnb that actually wanted to buy the bike previously.
Oh, sweet.
We connected back and forth, whatever. He ended up helping me take it out of there.
Uh-huh.
And to make a long story a little bit shorter, it got to the point where I was just like, you know something, all the bad gas from Nicaragua and all of that rotted out a lot of the motor and stuff.
Wow.
And it got to the point where I was just like, listen, man, it's yours now. Don't give me any money.
Yeah.
It's going to be a nightmare to fix. I know you want it, but it's yours. You can do whatever you
Yeah.
Good for you.
So that was actually something that was really cool in terms of that whole transition, because it was something that it was the last piece of my journey that I was holding on to.
Yeah.
And I
Dude, that's
finally,
epic. It's kind of epic.
I finally just released it.
Yeah.
I finally said to myself, you know what? I'm good.
Yeah.
And that is when a lot of this stuff started changing in my life, because I embraced letting go of the old finally.
100%, dude. Oh my, see, I never knew, as much as you've been on so many times, I've never known that part of the story. And, to much as his reaction, one, for you to leave your life behind in America, to go on the trip, and then to have to leave the life you made on the trip behind.
Yeah.
Dude, it makes sense. It's like, one, I got to give you so much credit, man, because you literally followed whatever was guiding you.
Yeah.
Calling these people, I'll take your number and whatever, and then
Yes.
having to do it. It's like you were so connected.
Yeah.
To like it led you to make these great decisions to the point now where you get home, dude, it makes sense why you're a success.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
seriously,
It makes
dude,
sense,
because
yeah.
you kept, one, you led with your heart, you always have, but to see how much you left those there, you truly, as you just described, you let go.
Yes.
That could be like 10 other episodes, but
Yeah, yes,
you let go,
for
dude,
sure.
because you allow newness. I can't even have that stuff anymore.
Yes.
Why not?
And
You've made a success.
And sometimes the world, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, will make it that way for you without any other option.
Yeah.
And how you decide to handle that is, and it's tough. It's hard.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard. I'm not saying that it's easy, but how you decide to handle that in the grand scheme of things will determine how you move forward.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. Yeah.
That's epic. I was thinking you were gonna tell me like, oh, dude, it's still there, and I'm gonna go pick it up at some point.
That was my dream.
Years go by, dude. You show up and it's still there. You wipe the seat, the dust off the seat, and you get back on the thing, and it's still brilliant. That would be epic. That's what I was expecting.
And you know something? It's funny you say that because that's what I was holding on to.
Yeah,
That's what I was holding on to was that idea of, no, I'm going to go get that motorcycle because it means so much to me, because it was my life for a year and a half. And when I let that go, a lot of the things that I had been working on, the teaching company and stuff, really started ramping up rapidly, which I don't know what made that happen. I don't know the connection between them. I personally feel as though there are other universal and spiritual things that keep everything kind of connected in a certain way, and everything is a summation.
Yeah.
And so when you let go of certain things, other things that are in the future tend to ramp up.
Yeah.
And that was just something that I noticed for myself at that time.
That's awesome.
So let go into these transitions not knowing what is about to happen, and have the confidence in yourself to know that you're going to be okay no matter what, and that keep doing the new and the different things to practice for these transitions. Doing anything small and new in your life is something that will bring you joy. It will benefit your life in a very positive way. Even if it's not seemed to be so in the present moment, you will look back and say there was a reason that happened, and embrace all of these things and just keep moving forward and keep changing with how you're supposed to change in your life. And don't allow yourself to become stagnant, because like we said about COVID, ask yourself and look back 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it was, and say, should I have done a little bit more back then? My biggest fear with the people around me is looking at them not progress. And my number one biggest fear in life is looking at those people and at 65, 70, or on their deathbeds, whatever age that might be, and realizing that they actually didn't do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that really pushes me to have these conversations with people, and maybe to a fault, right? Maybe it's a little bit much at times, but it's because of that reason. Because I don't want you as a person to be sitting on your deathbed saying I should have done that.
Yeah.
And I don't want me to be looking at you suffering with that thought, right?
Saying
So
you should have done that.
saying that you should have done
Yeah,
that.
that's
you
sick.
know,
Yeah.
and so learn from these things, learn from these ideas, and learn from your past self, and say, did I actually go for it and do it, or did I stay under the threshold again? And either one of those answers is fine, but take that into consideration for the rest of your life.
I love that.
It's a perfect closer, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't even have to ask me what
Didn't
that
have to
one
ask.
message.
Dude,
I
I
enough.
honestly, that's how I actually want to end it. Like
Okay.
that was a perfect layup.
No,
Like,
I think that's perfect, man. I appreciate you closing it out like that. If there's no other lasting message from you,
no,
man,
dude, you just said it perfect.
Yeah.
Leave it be.
no, I appreciate that.
No.
Guys, I thank you so much for tuning in. We're just going to leave you on that high note. But guys, tell them where they can find you.
Travelingteacher.com. If you want to find out more about my motorcycle journey, it's at peter.panopoulos1 on Instagram.
That's sweet. You guys can just follow me, Vasilis_Axios. Instagram's really the only platform I use too much.
Can they reach out to you with questions, whether they're trying to sell, trying to like whatever it is? real estate wise?
Yeah. You can shoot me a DM on Instagram, or my phone number. I don't know if I should say it. What is this?
Yeah, go for it.
Commercial. 781-812-7495. Really anything. You guys can reach out. Anything.
Literally just
Boston.
do that for girls.
Yeah,
literally just do that for girls.
And that's my personal number. It's not even my business number. That's my personal number.
Hilarious. But no, reach out to
Yeah,
him,
reach
guys.
out to me and I can take care of you. And
Yep.
we do all of Massachusetts and some parts of Florida too.
Right?
Yeah.
He kills it, guys. As much as we go over bits of knowledge, he brings so much to people. That's why I want him to do that.
It's awesome.
But guys, I thank you so much for tuning in to Once a Week with the Greeks this week. But guys, please like this mess on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up down below.
Saloniki Boys. That's a band, I think, right? There's a band.
It's about to be.
It's going to be now. Yeah.
Guys, share this message with someone who you feel needs to hear it. If at any time in any topic we were discussing today, someone popped in your mind as a clear-cut sign that they need to hear that too to help them, share it to them. Lend a hand, not to share who we are, but to share something that can help them move forward. And please subscribe to Once a Week if you've not yet already. That number is going up every single week, and we love to see it. That means we're helping more people. If you're in need of a coach who can help you with whatever we discussed today in your transition process, head to BillyGLifeCoaching.com and set up a free call with me. I'm right there for you. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. Seriously.
Cool. See you guys. Sweet.
You know I've been around and doing it, but now it's my time to shine and start proving it. I'm losing it, I'm moving it. The city is where I'm made, Bostonian flow, I kick it back there. Yeah, I got game, God in a fan way. We the city of the champs, every sport we play. Spit wetter than the harbor, yeah, I'm flowing like the Charles. I be speeding on this beat, call it Turnpike Miles. Yeah, it's Buku signing on, John to the Hancock.